Welcome to the FYE Talks podcast for our episode, A Conversation on Student Loans.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the FYE Talks podcast. I'm Alexis Hutchinson. I'm acting as your guest host today on a super awesome episode focused on debt, which is not quite so awesome, but we're going to make it manageable. I'm here with Brianna Harris, and I'll let her kind of introduce herself, her department, what she does, and then we're going to get right into it because I think this topic is going to be super relevant to, students, faculty, staff, everybody with debt.
Yeah.
So everyone.
We're going to definitely try to keep it spicy.
Yes, life should be spicy.
Yeah, life should be spicy. My name is Brianna Harris, and I am the FYE program coordinator here at ECTC. So I'm pretty much in charge of all of the academic side of things, right? The curriculum and everything that comes along with the FYE 105 course. We won't bore you with that today. We're going to focus primarily on debt and our terrible choices with it.
Yes, and so I wish we could sit here as two completely debt-free people who had never made any mistakes with that in their lives, but not here, not today, and not in this room. So I think that most college students, I think it would be fair to say, know about debt, have a general understanding, but as far as how much that reaches into your personal life, your professional life even sometimes, things like that, what that looks like.
Yeah.
And why, everybody says, don't take on any more debt than you need, don't do those things. But a lot of times it can feel kind of impossible to get away from debt.
Yeah.
I think you would agree. Nowadays especially.
Yeah, it almost feels inevitable, especially the younger you are, I think, whenever you see everybody else around you, especially like friends, family. I mean, everybody is in debt, right? Everybody that you know has got like a car payment. They maybe have student loans. They're paying this, that. They have a credit card, whatever it may be, right? So it feels like almost everybody has debt, so it feels so normal for you too as well. So it's just almost inevitable, it feels like. Right?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like it was always an understanding. Like in my family, my parents, we were poor. We didn't have a lot when we were growing up, but that was the understanding was you were heading towards a debt. You were either going to get a house, you were going to get a car, you were going to go to school. How were you going to pay for that? We can't pay for that. That conversation was brought to me very young.
Yeah.
And, I graduated in 2015, which was not that long ago. And so I feel like I still have a little bit of knowledge about high school and what that was like. And I distinctly remember everyone kind of having those conversations about debt, student loans. But it was always kind of like in general terms. Like it was always student loans are bad, you shouldn't do it. But if you do, get a budget, do these things. But
the conversation, for me at least, was never... they always say, well, don't do student loans, don't do this. But, how do I not? That was never the conversation, at least that I had whenever I was growing up, especially in high school. It just felt like it was an inevitability, even though everybody told you and agreed it was not the right thing to do.
Yes.
But nobody told you how you could not do it.
It was almost like, oh, well, sorry. Yeah. If you can't, that's great.
Yeah.
It was just very swept under the rug as to how that was going to impact my life later, I guess. And I said, it was brought up very young. My parents owed for the house, they owed for the car, they owed credit cards, they owed all that kind of stuff. And like you said, the understanding was it was bad. Don't take out a credit card. Don't do these things. But then there was no workaround. There was no secret money pot that you could have access to.
That you can just magically afford college tuition.
Literally. I like to say, we were too poor to make it, but not too poor to, get the help we needed.
Yeah.
We were somewhere in that gray in between of not quite there, but not being able to do it ourselves either, which one of the funniest things I think is the estimated family contribution on the FAFSA.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah. I see that and I'm like... No.
Yeah. Well, see, that's an important thing especially for my story as well. So you mentioned your backstory. For me, my parents, for the majority of my teenage years, made enough money to theoretically be able to help my sister and I get through college. But in reality, the money management that they had, right, their ability to actually manage money, not spend it on random stuff or not spend it on things that they already owed for, right? Because while they're bringing in X amount of money, they are paying this and that credit card. They're paying off their home. They've got 2 car payments, all of this stuff. That money isn't actually in our house, right? It's sitting in the driveway.
Yep.
So it's there is enough money theoretically in the abstract sense to be able to help my sister and I go to college. But in reality, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
There was not a secret pot of money that we were hiding from, anybody.
From the government or anything. And that was a big part of me growing up was, like I said, it was a familiar thing. You knew you were going to have to take out a student loan because there was no family contribution. My parents, made too little, owed too much, that kind of thing. And no fault of their own. We had to have a place to live. We had to have a vehicle and things like that. But it just wasn't realistic to say, okay, well, I'm going to give you a couple $1,000s to pay for room and board. And so to kind of bring this back around to debt and what that looks like, to me, it looked like a $15,000 loan in my undergrad for the 2 years that I went. I went to ECTC, URA, and got it for free. The FAFSA paid for that. I didn't have any scholarship money. I didn't know how that worked. I didn't know how to apply for scholarships. And like I said, I didn't graduate that long ago, but even then it was like, I feel like the kids who got scholarships were kind of hand chosen. Like there was a few students who had really good ACT scores and things like that. They had really good GPAs, and the guidance counselors really focused on ensuring they made it. And because they knew, they had the scores, there was an invested interest. They could obviously see that these students were, more than likely going to be successful if they went. So I understand where that was coming from. But it left me high and dry with, and none of my family went to college. They couldn't help me. They couldn't instruct me. Here's how to fill out scholarships. Here's how to go about getting grants, things like that. It just wasn't there. That education, that knowledge was lost on me. And so, ECTC, I was like, yes, I'm going to go. I'm going to be a work study. I'm going to save my money, and I'm going to pay for my bachelor's degree. Well, then I started renting a place to live because I didn't want to live at home anymore. Well, there went savings, because I needed groceries and I needed to pay for gas and, my utilities and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, well, it do be looking like that. It do be looking like we ain't got no savings. But I was still very confident, still very hopeful. I was like, you know what? It'll be okay. I'll just take out what I need and I'll pay it off and it'll be all right. And that time I was a part-time employee. So I felt like I was making money, not a lot. A lot for me who didn't make any money, you know, and so I felt like I was in a really good place. And it just, it was one series of setbacks, it seems like, with money and things. And, I wasn't, not budgeted with my money. I wasn't not aware of where it was going, but it always felt like there was something that came up. And I feel like that's what a lot of students are not prepared for is if you don't plan ahead, life will plan it for you. And a lot of times it won't be in your favor.
Well, the unexpected, right? Yes. There's sometimes some things that unless you plan like just for something to happen, like you're never going to be able to predict what will. So you can never really actually prepare. Like something will always pop up. You think that you're going to be able to save and you think that you're going to be able to do all these things. And then like you said, you move into an apartment. Well, now you have to pay rent. Now you have utilities. Now you maybe have Wi-Fi, water, all of these things that come along with it, not to mention just gas, groceries to get from your apartment to wherever you need to be. It's more complicated than that, right? In contrast, whenever I went to college, I did get a scholarship. I got a scholarship that covered full tuition and an allowance for housing and books. Why am I sitting here in debt, you may ask? Because I'm dumb. That's why. That's the simplest answer I can give anybody here, right? Man. I had Keys money from Kentucky or from the state, and I had a scholarship. So theoretically, I could have paid all of my college expenses, at least during my undergraduate, with that alone. However, I did not. Whenever I was in my undergrad, I just thought, well, everybody's taking out student loans. I'll just take out a small student loan, in my own name, not a big deal, and that'll help me like in the in-between. Did I need it? No. I can firmly say that right here and now, but at the time, you could not have convinced me otherwise. It was what I thought I needed to do. I get to my graduation fair whenever I was a senior graduating. And I'm walking around trying to get my cap and gown, trying to do all of this, trying to, stop at the mascot, get my photo taken. I get to one table, a modest little tiny table. There was no tablecloth on said table, just two nice women sitting behind it, holding like boxes full of envelopes. And it's my next stop, so I stop there. It's the financial aid table. Oh no, you may. What? I've gone through 4 years of college and never once considered the amount I owed, right? I never thought about it. I just thought every single year, yep, I'm going to click that button and I'll sure accept that amount.
Promissory note showing
Thank you. I will take it. Yes. And then I get to my senior year. There is no more, school left for me. At that time, I had no idea I was going to continue on for a master's degree. And I get to that financial aid table. They give me an envelope and they say, okay, well, you have a great day. Keep on going, right? And so they just hand you the envelope. I didn't even open it right there. So I leave the grad fair, open it up, and it says that I owed over $19,000. And I looked at it, and I was like, that's wrong. There's no way. They're cheating me. Like, I'm like, I don't owe that much money.
This is not true.
I went back, and I was like, there's no way. I logged into my student account. I looked at all of the, acceptances. I added them up myself. And sure enough, they were right. That's
they
how
don't
much
really
I
print
owed.
them letters unless they know. That's
They
the
knew.
thing. They knew.
I didn't. They did.
Yep.
You can bet that someone else is keeping track, even if you aren't. Right? They're going to get theirs.
Oh, that's the thing is like it ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, that is one of the worst things about student loan debt, and we hear it, but until it's you and, you know, that dollar amount is on your life and they're like, I will take everything from you.
Yes.
I'll take your dog.
Your
I'll take
firstborn. I'll do what I
everything."
need to.
They will. They will do what they need to. And
Yeah.
that's the thing is why it is so important to be knowledgeable.
Yeah.
You know, like myself, I was like, yes, I will take out a student loan. I will pay this off in no time.
Yeah.
It is 5 years later.
Yeah.
And I'm not below $14,000, and I can't tell you where it went wrong. Well,
Yeah.
I can. I had a huge interest rate, and we'll get into that. But
Yeah.
that's the thing, is being aware of these amounts and being realistic with
Yeah,
you
not
know, what you
ignoring the
gotta
problem.
do.
The problem's there.
Yeah.
You can not stare at it. You can, keep your head in the sand. You can stand in the corner, look at the corner only. The problem's still there. The
Yeah.
person's still in the room.
And
right?
that's the thing is like, and would I have done it differently? Sure. If I had been able to figure out scholarships and been able to figure out how those things worked and been more knowledgeable about my, you know, my choices and things like that, yes, I would go back and do it again. However, I don't think there would have been an eventuality where I wouldn't have had to take out even a small one.
Yeah.
So I give myself peace with that. I'm like, you did what you had to do, girl. And that's the situation. You know, not that taking out a student loan is this horrible thing.
Yeah.
This, you can't get away from it. It'll haunt you for the rest of your life. It's just being realistic with it. I'll never forget when I worked in a different office, I was talking to a student and we were both in the market for a house. Like we wanted to buy a house.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had just gone through the process. I had closed on my house. I was like, it was a terrible thing. And there are a lot of regulations with that I won't get into. But a big part of it was you could not take out a loan to pay for anything you had to have the money.
Yeah.
You couldn't just be like, well, let me get a bank loan to pay for this down payment
Yeah.
and I'll pay that off. And then, no, they
Yeah.
don't like it. They won't let you do it. It's a big no-no. And I'll never forget, she looked at me and was like, oh, well, you know, I'm just going to take out a student loan, you know, for my down payment.
Oh,
and I
gosh.
was like, honey,
That makes me want to cry for her.
no, like my home loan interest rate is so much lower
Than a student loan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just wanted to tell her like,
Sweet cheeks.
they're not going to be happy about that. They're not going to let you do that. And then you're stuck with that money that you're not, you know, whole mess.
Yeah.
But I feel like that is the thing. It comes off as easy, accessible money.
It does.
And
You
got,
think.
yeah.
Yeah, you think, oh, how am I going to do this? Well, it's okay. I'm getting that refund, right? And it's not a refund. You're taking out a loan. You will
Yes.
pay back more than what you are given.
Yes.
I didn't know, like at the time I should have known. I didn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we're not saying obviously if you have a student loan then that's the worst or that you are the worst, right?
No,
but
not at all.
It's better to like kind of know about it now as opposed to later. When I got that envelope and it said $19,000, I like had a whole moment where I was like, there's no way. What am I going to do?
Yep.
And I just continued to avoid the problem. I went to grad school immediately. I went straight into grad school. I mean, I didn't have to pay back my student loans at that time. And I thought, okay, well, that's good. I get to breathe for a second. You know what I didn't think about? You're just taking out more student loans.
Yep.
You dumb.
Let's just heap it on.
Yeah, and instead, well, grad school's like expensive. I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah. Oh, my
it's
goodness.
costly, and for a full academic year, a fall to spring, you're looking at an easy $10,000 oftentimes, right? Sometimes more than that, right?
Oh, yeah, depending on your program.
Depending on your program. I mean, it's an easy 10,000. If you don't take out any additional funds to cover parking, books, you know, all that, if you're talking just tuition, right? I took out about $19,000 to $20,000 each academic year because I had obviously to pay for my stuff and do all that. And again, we've already established I'm not intelligent in this area. But I did that. And then I got to my, you would believe, again, the very last semester of my grad school, and they send you an email that's like, here's some exit counseling. Like, that's going to help. I needed some
You're like,
entrance counseling.
The problem is already done.
Yeah, we're
Here's
here
how to
now.
feel about it.
Yeah, you should have counseled me earlier.
Yeah,
I don't know what
literally. It's like,
I
where
need
was
a
this
different
email?
type of counseling right now.
Honestly.
Yeah, and so I got the exit counseling. I started looking into it, and it's, you know, it said I owed $68,000. $68,000.
Oh, my
I almost
goodness.
cried right there, literally, because at that point I hadn't made a payment. Not a single dime went to my student loans the entire time, through undergraduate, through graduate. Not a dime I paid. So all of that was accumulating interest as I went.
Yep.
And so by the point I graduated, I owed way more than I even took out in the beginning, and I hadn't even started paying yet.
Yep.
And I had a huge like wake up call. And I also, like I said, I'm dumb. And whenever I got my refunds back from student loans, I kept the money. I didn't spend it all, so I guess I'm not that crazy terrible. I kept it all in savings just to sit there thinking, oh, I'm loaded.
Yep.
I thought that. In my brain, I was like, I'm in a good situation, you know, in comparison to some of these other people. I got some money in the bank. And I thought whenever I saw that I owed $68,000, I thought, well, I'm just going to turn around and I'm going to give them some of that money that they gave me. I'll just give it right back.
Just send it right back.
Here you go. Take it back, please. And it barely helped,
Yep.
you know, because you're at such a terrible point in life that you're like, I just graduated. I don't have a full-time job where
Yep.
I'm making a set salary. The money that I'm making is not like crazy.
Amazing.
Yeah. So like it's like I have a job. And it doesn't pay me terribly, but it doesn't pay me enough to pay me enough to be able to.
We're not putting $1,000 payments on this thing to pay down
Exactly.
that principal. And that's another thing is you think I'm only taking $15,000, $19,000 a semester. In reality, you're taking about double, almost triple that because
once
of the interest.
Yeah, once the interest kicks in.
That
now,
is the secret sniper of your goals and your dreams is the interest. That is where they get you. You could take out $1,000. But if your interest rate is high enough, you're going to pay back twice, 3 times that amount, you know. And that was where I was absolutely wrecked.
And each one of your loans usually will have a completely different interest rate.
Yep.
So you get a new loan for every single academic year, essentially, right? And so one of them could be, you know, a 4% interest rate. One of them could be a 6.5% interest rate. I'm speaking from experience there.
Oh, yeah. Mine were worse.
My very first, and I thought this was criminal. Once I started actually learning about student loans, I figured out I owed $68,000. I made it my business to figure out what I needed to do to get in, you know, on the other side of this, right? What do I need to know right now? And the first thing I needed to know, obviously, was what did I owe? In what areas? What was the interest rate? What am I talking about here? And my first ever loan for my undergraduate, very first freshman year, the interest rate on it was 6.8%.
Oof.
Oh
my goodness.
And then like my next year, it was only like 3.6. The next was like 4.5. So it's like, why'd you do that to me?
Yeah, hit you right out the bat. And that's the thing is I took out 2 student loans in terms of actually what I took out because I took one out for that fall and then I took one out for that spring until I was finished. And so I think one of them had it was like a 7% interest on one and then it was pretty the same for another one. But I also messed up in taking a private student loan out. I didn't go through the school to take it out because the amount that they were willing to give me was lower than what private lenders were willing to give me, which is like, of course. They're like, oh, you can't pay it back? That's fine. Here, you can sign your name for sure.
Yeah, we got you in a contract for 20 years.
And so that was the thing is I needed the money. I needed to be able to pay it off. And so I was like, if I get a little back in books, what we going to do with that? You know, there was intention there. And I thought, I knew what I was getting into. I thought, okay, well, this is only $7,000 some dollars each semester. You know, it's not going to be that bad. Well, in reality, I was going to end up paying back close to 30.
Yeah.
When I actually sit down, like you said, quit, I thought I was slick. I was like, I'm going to put $50 in interest payments while I'm going. I'm going to knock this out. I'm not even going to owe any money when I get done. Like, I'm
you're paying interest
down
the whole
that
time.
Interest. It didn't even cover all of the interest it was accruing. That was just the minimum they said that I could pay to feel like I was doing something, I guess.
feel like you're making progress, and in reality, all you're doing is paying interest.
Yes.
So whenever the next month, whenever they calculate your interest on what you owe, same exact number.
Yep.
Because you're not breaking it down any further than what you've already built. So you're just building it back up. You're making zero progress.
Literally.
You're just paying them exactly what they want you to pay.
It felt like spinning my wheels completely. I was like a car stuck in the mud. I'm not moving anywhere. I feel like I'm going backwards. And that was so demoralizing. You know, it was just so, I was like, this is an insurmountable issue. I'm never going to be able to get out of this.
Yeah. I'm embarrassed to say that whenever I first figured out like how much I owed, right? I had, like I said, all of that money that I had saved up. And I thought, oh, cake. Like that first, I started realizing, oh man, this first ever loan that I took out has the highest interest rate. Let me throw a really large payment at that loan, right? And I'm talking like over $1,500. I paid over $1,500 on that first loan. And I was like, cake, like,
Yeah, this is nothing.
I'm thinking I'm impressive. Like, I'm like really like overly proud of myself.
like
It's
Brianna the
embarrassing.
Destroyer.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm hardcore. Like I'm knowledgeable. I'm taking this thing out. Well, then I log in like 2-3 days later once the payment actually posts and all of that kind of stuff. And I look at it and I'm just like, no, let me see it. Let me refresh that.
Yeah, just
Has it posted? And I check my bank account. I was like, yeah, they took it out. So like I'm confused. My amount listed did not go down
yep.
because 100% of what I paid went to interest only.
Yep.
I owed over $1,500 in interest on one loan. And I thought I was
That
hardcore.
is like the lowest I mean, that is like punch in the gut
literally.
level. I remember I had that feeling when the actual principal amount was added to that interest payment. Once I had graduated and, that grace period had gone away, they were like, okay, now instead of $50, you owe $183. And I was like, that sucks, but at least I'm going to start paying it down. This is going to go down in no time. They have told me this is the amount to pay it off. Well, in reality, that was the amount to pay it off in like 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years.
I don't know about anybody else, but I don't want to be paying anything really for 30 years unless it's like a home.
I want to be out of debt in my 30s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to be on the backslide.
Yeah.
Cash for things that I want kind of business, because that is a good place to be, because there are no hidden fees. There is no interest rate looming over you. There is no, if I can't make this payment, are they going to come take my car or garnish my wages kind of thing, because they will dip into your bank account. They do not care. I mean, we keep saying they, but truly those companies will get their money. I mean, short of you finding a way to pay it off, getting it forgiven, that kind of business.
And here's the secret. When you file bankruptcy, does not impact your student loans.
Nope, you will still have that, and they will not care, and they will tank your credit. Not only will it tank from filing bankruptcy, but you will still have those loans.
Now, I want to take a second, though, because what we've done essentially up to this point has hopefully made all of our listeners terrified.
Yes.
I think that's a lot of what we've done so far. I just shared really crappy experiences that we both had, and trying to illustrate that if you can figure out a way to not do so, then do so. But we're also wanting to have a conversation about how do you get out of this situation, right?
Yes.
I am happy to say that short of a miracle, I am debt free at this current point in my life. Literally posted. I looked today. And I was like, let me just check.
Triple check.
Let me just make sure. And yeah, I owe $0 at this point. Now, let me remind you, $68,000. That's how much I owed. Right? I was talking to one of my friends recently, and I was just, because I talk about, I'm not shy about this subject, because I feel like everybody should talk about it. I feel like everybody should know. It feels like such a taboo subject for so many people.
Thing. Money is always a very touchy subject, but truly, if you're not aware, it can sneak up on you, and then it can damage a lot of things.
Yes. But so I think it's also important for us to note that there are obviously very measurable things, very clear things that you can do to try and get out of the situation, right? And it's not the end of the world if you get put in a situation where either of us have been put in.
Yes. Well, that's building that confidence to know that, you're capable of paying it off. There are ways and people and systems and programs and information that are free and accessible that you can get out of that situation, because sometimes you just ain't got no choice.
And what it takes,
sometimes you have to have that money.
What it takes on the front end is just knowledge.
Yes.
Listening to this right here, good start.
Good start.
Actually looking into your situation, great start.
And now we break for a program plug.
Hello, ECTC students. My name is Amber Phillips Hubry, and I am the first-year experience program facilitator here at the college. And what that basically means is that I coordinate the tutoring services that are provided in the WIN Center on campus in ATB 100. The WIN Center is a program that is designed to provide tutoring services to all ECTC students. So this center does not require that you qualify for our program in any capacity. All students are free and welcome to use the tutoring services and other resources that are provided through the WIN Center. We provide tutoring in a wide variety of just general education courses as well as program-specific courses. So what that looks like is a general education course could be your English, a math class, a psychology class, sociology class, etc. So we can help with a variety of those classes. We also help with some program-specific courses such as anatomy and physiology, higher level chemistry courses, etc. So if you are struggling in any class, regardless of which class it is, feel free to reach out to the WIN Center, to myself individually, if you prefer, and I will be more than happy to get you set up with an appointment with one of our tutors in the WIN Center to assist you. We do operate on appointments only for this fall 2020 semester simply due to COVID restrictions involving social distancing. So we're open Monday through Thursday from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. and we provide on-campus face-to-face tutoring as well as virtual or online tutoring. If you prefer on-campus or face-to-face tutoring, that's absolutely okay. You are more than welcome to come on campus and meet with one of our tutors. However, in order to ensure that social distancing is taking place and that we are following all of those guidelines recommended by the CDC, I have to limit how many individuals can be in the WIN Center at a time to ensure that everyone is spaced out properly. So in order to do that, we are requiring that students schedule appointments with us in advance so that I can make sure the center is always not at max capacity in terms of being able to spread everyone out. So if you are in need of any tutoring assistance in any of your classes for the fall, then please reach out to me individually and I will be more than happy to set you up an appointment at a day and time that works for you and our tutors around those schedules. And like I said, we're open Monday through Thursday from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. and we provide on-campus tutoring as well as virtual online tutoring. We do conduct our online tutoring through Blackboard Collaborate. So that is something that you will be using for many of your classes anyway, and it's something that you will become very familiar with. However, if there is another program that works a little bit better for you, that is a little bit simpler to use, we're not opposed to that as well. So we're very flexible in the different platforms that students prefer as far as our online or virtual tutoring. Additionally, the WIN Center hosts a variety of workshops each semester for students just to be able to expand their network and meet other individuals that maybe will help them be able to get a job in the future once they graduate. The majority of those workshops we will be offering virtually this fall 2020 semester, and that information will be emailed out to you as well as posted on our social media platforms for the WIN Center. So I really encourage students to follow, like, etc. the WIN Center Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter pages to stay up to date on all of the different tutoring services that we're providing as well as those workshop opportunities that are available to you. Additionally, we will post recordings for those different workshops online on our Blackboard shell. So that is something that many of you will be able to see in Blackboard. And if it's something that maybe you don't have access to or it's not showing up, then feel free to let me know and I'll see what I can do to fix that for you. Additionally, we do operate a peer mentoring program through the WIN Center. And this peer mentoring program is designed to pair returning ECTC students with incoming freshmen that are in need of some assistance navigating their post-secondary educational experience. So if you are an incoming freshman and you're a little bit nervous about things and hesitant about how things are going to look, and you have a lot of questions just about some things that maybe you're a little bit scared to ask a faculty or staff member about, then this may be a program that would work really well for you. So if that's something that you are interested in, then by all means, feel free to reach out to me and I will get you set up with a mentor. Additionally, if you are a returning student and you would like to serve as a mentor, then by all means, let me know that as well and I'll be more than happy to get you set up as a participant in the program. So my contact information kind of varies. So I have a Google Voice number that you are more than welcome to text at any given time, and that is 270-883-2365. Additionally, you can call my office number at 270-706-8568, or you can also send me an email at aphillips, PHILLIPS, 0108 at kctcs.edu, and I will be more than happy to assist you. So welcome to ECTC, and again, my name is Amber Phillips Hoopery, and I coordinate all the tutoring services that are provided through the WIN Center. So if you need anything at all, feel free to let me know. Thank you.
right?
Well, that's the thing. I think to break it down in steps is the best way to kind of proceed with this. And that's step one, as we've covered, is know where you're at.
Yeah, identifying what hole am I in.
Yes.
Start looking around at your resources and figuring out, okay, now what do I need to do to get out of this hole?
Well, that's the thing. You got to be realistic about the interest rate. I mean, a lot of times with a student loan, they will break it down and tell you how much is going to the interest, how much is going to the principal, how much you've paid that month, that year, whatever. You get those statements. And so realizing, okay, if I pay the minimum, this much is going to the principal, this much is going to the interest. I remember my $183 payment when it really hit me that I needed to take really aggressive action was I was paying it and I was like, why is this not going down very much? Why is this not doing it? And it was because only $33 of that amount
Was going to your principal?
was going to my principal. And I was like, no ma'am, that's not going to work. And so
And
knowing
if you break
where
that
you're
down
at,
for between student loans, like you're looking at maybe like $10, $15 going to this one.
Yeah.
You know, 10, 15 going to this one. I think it's important because there's so many different strategies you can take with loan repayment, right? We both did different things. We've actively been doing different things, but we're both getting in the right direction, right?
Well, that's the thing. Like with me is, obviously increasing the amount I pay each month. That was really primark for me. It's like, I got to find this money, if that means not having Hulu, not having Netflix, making those sacrifices, because ultimately it's just like anything else. It's like trying to quit a habit, trying to lose weight, whatever. You're going to have to figure out where you are. And then step two is figure out what you're willing to do to get ahead.
Yeah, I think that's important. It's about rewiring how you think and approach the situation.
Yes.
So understanding where you are, obviously, that's a big step in it. And then realizing, like, what do you need to do to, what do you have to sacrifice? It's going to take sacrifice.
Yes.
And, it can be small progress, here and there whenever you get an extra, like a little bit extra on your paycheck. Let's say that you worked extra this week. Well, instead of just being like, well, I deserve, to treat myself to this, that, or the other, be like, well, maybe I deserve to be debt free.
Yes. I deserve to not have this looming over me.
I had a friend that we actually worked together at one of my previous institutions, and she was making like a $10, $15 payment here or there. Whenever she got a good paycheck, she'd pay $30. Right, and every single paycheck, she would pay $10, $15, maybe $30, like I said, if it was a good one. And I, secretly was like, what in the world? Like,
What
she
are
ain't
you
getting
doing?
anywhere.
Yeah.
And then I looked, and she had paid over $10,000 on her student loan since she started.
That's amazing.
And I was like, how? Like, how did you
What
do
are you
that?
doing?
Because, she'd been in school for a while, just like I had, right? But I didn't realize I had done 0 payments, right? And I am thinking I have a better approach. She's paid over $10,000 on her student loans. She's working it down gradually, steadily. Whatever she can do, she does. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh, man, come on. Like, that's not getting her anywhere. Guess who's paid 0? Me,
Well, and that's the thing is assessing like, okay, I'm going to have to put a little bit of money aside for this each month. I need to understand how much more I need to put on the principal amount to ensure I'm actually making progress and not spinning my wheels paying just this interest off.
Yeah, you have to put more than what they ask.
Yes.
That's one of the key things, right? That you have to understand and remember. And it seems like such an obvious and an easy thing to like know, but you actually have to put that into practice. If you just pay what they ask you to pay, you're going to pay it off in the exact time that they want you to, right? Which sometimes could be 15 years, 30 years. It just depends, like, on what plan, what repayment plan that you sign up for.
Yes.
Right? And you have to be knowledgeable and aware of that. Are you committed to paying this exact same dollar amount for 30 years?
Yep. Well, and that's the thing. And, realistically, you're like, oh, well, I mean, who cares? It's just this little bit of money. Well, it's not, because that is, in my case, that was $183 that wasn't going to pay off my car, wasn't going on my mortgage, wasn't buying your groceries.
Wasn't going into retirement?
No, wasn't building any kind of foundation that would support me later on in my life. It was going to something I'd already done that I had used to get a job, which was fantastic. I had to have it again, but seeing myself paying that money off when I got a stable career, I had a house, I was like, okay, no, I want to be paying on these things that are serving me, that I live in, that I go to work and I go to the store and that I eat and that I want to do and I want to travel. And that is a considerable amount of money, especially when you don't make a ton.
I think that's such an important thing that you just said. So it's like you're currently struggling in your present, unable to plan for your future because you're paying for your past.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And that is exactly how it is.
That's how it breaks down. For me, like we mentioned earlier, I am currently, as of this morning, debt free, right? $68,000 paid, right? And that was a hard journey for me. A lot of it came, like Alexis said, in paying more than I needed to, more than they requested. Yep. A lot of it came into doing it as quickly as I could as well, right? So instead of just putting a little bit of extra money here or there towards it, I put literally everything I possibly could have. I sacrificed a ton. I didn't buy new clothes, but except for very sparingly.
Yep.
My sister's closet, my friends' closets, those became like my favorite places to go, right? Because I was not going to the store to buy other things. I had a set, budget. I had to really have a good structure in my life. Like, what am I willing to do? How much does that mean that I can put extra? And when you get into it, you're so willing to do it, right?
Well, that's the thing. When you start, and I think everybody is so nervous and apprehensive in the beginning because instead of getting to go out to eat or getting to, do these activities or buy these things that you really, really want, which I know.
Yeah.
I love buying art supply, all kinds of stuff. Like, I am not saying that it's easy to just, I just won't buy those things anymore.
Yeah.
When I've had a hard day, Michael's, I'm like, welcome back.
It's the worst.
It's just, but the thing is, and where the motivation begins to come in, you got to get over that hump. You got to get over the sadness of being where you're at and then get to the top where you're like, okay, where do we go from now? And then have a plan. Make a budget. Understand how much you have to be able to put on this to get ahead. And being realistic with that number, not just saying, well, maybe if I do this 1 month and then next month I don't. And it's like you said, structure is key because in the beginning you're like, oh, this is terrible. I can't do these things. I can't go and buy new clothes. But when you start seeing that dollar amount come down, and you start seeing that you're below
you get really motivated.
a certain amount, you're like, oh my goodness, it's working.
I'm getting there. Yeah. It's working. Yeah. That's the whole thing. It's that the like you were talking about, the biggest thing that you can ever do is make a call, right?
Yep.
Am I going to do this? Yes. Am I not going to do this? No. Then you're not surprised about your outcomes, right? If you make a call to move forward, do this, make the sacrifices, and you actually start putting that into practice, it almost becomes easier to a point, right? It feels achievable. You know you want to do this. You're making the sacrifices so that you can pay this off. So then when you start to see it go down, I'm going to make more sacrifices. I'm going to sell that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this, that, or the other. And it's all going to be, steadily going down. You're going to be able to visually see it. So the closer you get to that zero, the more motivated and extra you become, right?
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, and you suddenly start seeing a lot more opportunities come up, I think, at the end of the tunnel. And that's what it was for me, is like, man, if we could get out from underneath this, we could make X number of payments on the car, have that paid off in less than 5 years. Then we could take that money and what we paid on the student loan, because we've already established.
Yeah, we've already done it.
We've already been paying it on something else. I'm going to take that. And if we put that on our mortgage, then we'll have our house paid off in X number. And it starts to snowball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so
it sounds impossible, but when you see it happening, it's very real. It's tangible. You see the results. And it makes sense when you get into it. But, just looking at the problem to begin with always feels like the biggest obstacle.
And there are so many resources nowadays, I think, is another huge thing. Like, I feel like when I was taking it out, there were resources, but they weren't easily accessible. It was like trainings and things like that. And I'm like, look, I already know what the problem is.
Things that like to be fair, things that like college students don't want to go over.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were boring. They took hours. I needed somebody to say, this is where you're at.
Yeah.
This is realistically what you do to get out from this.
Yeah,
That's
give it
what
to
I
me
needed,
straight. That's what I need.
No
right?
fluff. I don't need to hear about why, what choices brought me here. I know.
It reminds me of like a recipe.
Yes.
Online, whenever you start looking for all this stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Right? You're like, you have to read through like 10 paragraphs of the time they went to their, grandma's house over like the winter time period. And it's like, I literally just want to know what I need to do to make this meal.
Honestly.
That's what I want.
I'm trying to break this bread.
I don't have the time. I've wasted this much time already, right? I want to know the information that I need. And that's what I found a lot. Like whenever I'm telling you, I made it my business to know everything I possibly could. I made it my business to know everything I possibly could.
Yep.
I looked up several different approaches, what I could do this way, what I could do that way. What was the evidence behind this person's beliefs versus this person's belief. And then I kind of pieced it together to make it something that I could feasibly do and that worked for me in my life.
Definitely.
Right? And that's fine and that's okay. There's not necessarily a super wrong approach, but you have to make sure you understand the approach and then actually do it.
Well, that's the thing, is like also being realistic with yourself. You know, like there are things we can do without. We can do without the streaming services, maybe. We can do without, buying new clothes as often or whatever the case may be.
Going out to eat every night.
However, groceries and making payments on other things, doing those other things that are going to ensure you're making it. Are, you can't be like, well, I just
those
not
aren't
buy
things
groceries.
you can sacrifice.
Yeah, and so being realistic, but then also being realistic about what you're willing to do, because I think that's kind of the thing. It took seeing that $33 principal payment for me to be like, this isn't working. Because up until that point, I was kind of delusional. I was like, $183. This is easy.
I can afford that.
Yeah, this is not going anywhere. This is fine. You know, I'll have this paid off in a while. Well, no. I needed to look at that to see I am at rock bottom right now. And if I want to get out of it, what can I do?
Yeah.
And so in my case, it was taking a look at my interest rate and saying this is way too high. This is not going to be anything feasible because I'm realistically not going to be able to put enough money on this to get ahead enough. And so I refinanced and the interest rate was much lower. Now my payment went up, but that was good because that meant more was going on the principal.
Yes.
And I was able to finally get it in a manageable range to where now I'll have it paid off in 5 years.
Yeah.
And to feel,
That feels good, doesn't it?
oh man, I'm like, you can do anything for 5 years. I
Yeah.
could live in a box for 5 years. You know, like I can make it. I can do it because now there is a tangible, realistic end goal.
Yes.
Whereas before it was just kind of in the air. One day.
Yeah.
One day. No, you got to have a time. You have to say
Yeah.
5 years, today. I'm going to start today. And then 5 years from now,
Yeah.
I'm going to look back and it is going to be gone and I'm going to feel so much better. And Lord willing, sooner than that.
Yeah.
But that was the thing. And then I said, okay, now I know how long. Here's what I got to do to get ahead even further. Well, I can cut it down to 2 years if we did away with this, this, and this, and then put this on it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's being realistic, but also looking at it constructively and saying, okay, well, I can't get rid of I have to have internet. We work from home.
Yeah.
I have to have internet. It's expensive. Lord bless, it's expensive.
Yeah.
But I cannot sacrifice that. Whereas, you know, if maybe I didn't work from home sometimes or, you know, I didn't have somebody in my house who was doing the online schooling, things like that, I would say,
Nah.
nah,
Yeah.
you know, because it's like $145
Yeah.
that I could be like in the bank.
Back in my pocket.
But
yeah, I
again-
think that's important. It's also individualistic. You can't let someone else dictate and tell you what you need.
Yes.
Right. And that's important to know, right? Like you can do without that. You can do you need to take a look, right? Don't just write them off immediately. Take a look and say, could I actually live without that? Or do I find some kind of value with that, you know, that I feel like I personally need it? There are things in life that we obviously all do, but it gives us a little something, right? Now, whenever you enter this big, long, I'm trying to pay off my student loans journey, right? It's going to be taxing, hard. There's going to be you hit about the midway mark and you're like, I just want this to be over. You know, I've been sacrificing for so long. I want to be able to do what I want to do. And that's when a lot of people fall off the wagon.
That's very true.
A lot of people are like, well, I've just been doing this for so long. I'm not done. Like, why is it taking me so long? And the thing is because you owe a ton of money, right?
Let's just be real.
Realistically, that's why, right? And so you have to have something that keeps you going and keeps you motivated. Now, for some people, it's just about watching the number go down.
Yep.
And that keeps them going. And they're like, I can see the progress. I'm okay with this. And some people need a treat, right?
Yep.
And that's okay. If you're that person, you're that person. Don't apologize about it. But you need to sit down and say, what can I do? If I feel like I need this treat to keep me going, that's fine. Just understand it's going to take me a month longer to pay off my student loans.
Yep.
Right? Or it's going to take me a year longer to pay off my student loans. But I feel like without this thing, there's no way I'd be able to keep myself motivated to continue.
Yep.
Right? And that's okay. But you need to just be okay with whatever it is that you need.
Yeah.
And not feel guilty about that, right? Towards the end, for the beginning, the whole first year, it was easier for me the first year, I think, than it was first of all, I didn't think I ever prefaced this. I did pay off my student loans in about 2.5 years. That's the time frame that it took me to pay off my student loans. So for the first year, that was probably the easiest year. I was dedicated to the process. I was doing everything that I could, and I was watching huge numbers go down, go away. They were gone. They didn't exist anymore, and that was really motivating for me.
Well, it's kind of like when you have nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, but then the second year, you start seeing, okay, well, I've been doing this for so long. And at that point, I was in my biggest student loans, right? My grad school loans. I told you they're like $20,000. So no matter how much you're paying, I mean, yeah, the number's going down, but it's still 5 digits. So
Yep.
I don't know about that, you
You're
know?
like, ooh.
Yeah, so it was tough going through that part of things. And I had to find something that would keep me a little bit more motivated, like a little extra treat here or there that I could give myself. And I just had to realize that's fine. Either I need to work more to be able to afford this little treat and not have it deeply impact my student loan repayment, or be okay with it taking me an extra month, right?
Yep.
But realistically, if I hadn't given myself those little treats, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now having this conversation.
Definitely. And that's the thing. Like with me, it was saying, okay, now that I've got a finish line, it's like, okay, well, I don't need to know that at the end I'll have all this extra money. I just need to know that it's not going to weigh me down anymore. Because that's the thing is like, if you want to take out for a house, if you want to take out for a car, anything, like I was thinking to myself, I had a really clunky car all through college. Like it got to where that thing literally would not run.
It's like whenever
$400 from my stepdad, I was like, no car payment was
when
great.
you're walking out to like your car, like either leaving school or coming to, you're just hoping and praying.
Yeah, you're like, when I get in that thing, one, please start.
Yeah, please.
And two, please don't let the brakes break in the middle of traffic like it did before.
Yeah.
Please let the seatbelt catch this time.
Yeah.
Little things.
Just the little things.
And so that's the thing is like, I knew it's like, oh, I'm going to have to take this out. Well, then that adds this much more money. And the thing is like, another huge spot where I had to, again, refocus and witness that my journey was going to be different from other people's is grad school.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I can't go to grad school because I already owe $15,000. If I throw 20 to 30, which is what it was going to be to go and do this, I'm now that much more in debt.
Yeah.
And it's going to take
I
that
feel
much
you there.
longer.
Yeah.
So that was the thing. And, and luckily I had a support net at that time with my fiance and everything where we could sit down and say, no, we don't want to do that. We already see that it's impacting us. But looking at it and saying, okay, we'll pay this one off, then we'll refocus.
Yeah.
Because at that point, we will be able to save a lot more than we are now. And we have a healthy savings account now because budgeting is key. And we're going to follow this episode up with one that completely goes over budgeting, tooling, how that looks, and things like that. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Super excited. But that was the thing, is saying, okay, now we can start paying off larger chunks. Whereas before we couldn't. We didn't have the ability.
Yeah.
Now we can. And so making that conscious decision, I'm going to do it now.
Yeah. I think like to kind of just reiterate some of the things that we've talked about today. So it's just really about not ignoring the problem.
Yes.
Being fully aware of like where you are in the process.
Yep.
And at any point in time, whether you're actively taking out student loans right now to finance your education, or whether you just finished your degree, and or whether you didn't finish but you're taking a break, or whether it's been 5 years and you're just trying to figure out how to get this done quickly, right?
Yep.
You just need to know where you are. What does it mean? You should be an expert theoretically on your own situation.
Yep.
So you should know what your interest rates are. You should know how much you owe. You should know roughly how long this is going to take you to actually pay off, like with your current practices, all of that kind of stuff. You need to make a decision.
Like that is definitely step 2, is make a choice.
A call. What are you going to do about it? Are you just going to be the person that makes their regular minimum monthly payment and just, rides it out and says, this is inevitable. I'm going to have to deal with this for 30 years of my life. I'm fine with it.
Yep.
Or are you going to be one of those people that says, maybe not 30, right? Maybe 10, maybe something like that. Maybe I'll try to do something unrealistic and unreasonable, which is what I did. And I was like, 2.5. I'm trying.
2.5.
And you have to make your own call there. Do your research. Get a support system in place.
And I think number 3 would definitely be know your resources.
Yes.
Know if you qualify for loan forgiveness. Know if there are repayment plans that better suit where you're at in your situation. Speak with somebody with a financial background who can tell you if you aren't able to figure that information out on your own, which is no shame because they make it so complicated to understand, because that's a big thing is they are not in your best interest.
Yeah.
They want to finance your education because they know they're going to get twice what they give you back. So there is no, I will hold your hand. I will explain to you the best way to do this. They're not going to give you that information for free. And so you really need to, either before you make that decision, or even if this is where you are and you're trying to pay it back, know your resources. Speak to somebody at your community college or in the community, somebody that who is more knowledgeable than you about finance, and I think it would almost be worth hiring somebody if your situation is bad enough
it's that situation,
to get that credible, realistic feedback if you can't give it to yourself. And then say, okay, here is my steps. You need to have tangible goals, just like they teach in FYE 105, setting realistic goals and giving that a time frame, giving that whatever.
And I want to make it clear that ways to manage time or finances or really anything, right, isn't to ignore the problem or to do nothing about it, right? That's not managing anything. So whenever you talk about budgeting specifically in this situation, right, well, maybe your plan is to not spend anything. Well, that's not really a plan, is it? So you really have to take ownership of your situation, know your resources, understand the issue at play, and understand the things that, will help you get out of it, right? There's a ton of stuff if you just hit up Google.
Oh, yeah.
Right? There's a ton of people that you'll find trying to give you advice. The thing is, don't stick with one just right off the bat. Start doing some research. Look around a little bit. But you need to know your own resources, and you need to start moving forward with something that really makes sense for your situation. Have a support system in place, right? Whether that be, you know, a family friend, your parents, a significant other, you know, some random person from your workplace that's in a similar situation as you. Just talk to someone about it and make sure that they're like on team you, right? Because that can do so much for you. Not being like not feeling like you can't celebrate the victories, right? Or not feeling like you can really mention it to someone else, because you look around, most of us are in debt.
Oh yeah, to
Most
some
of
point
us
or
have
another.
a way to connect with you about that situation, right? And most of us that went to college have student loans that we had to take out while we were there. And so understanding that that's not a taboo subject, right? If you're currently taking out student loans to be able to finance your education, hit the pause button for 4 seconds and look up and see if you've actually done your FAFSA to see if you qualify for federal financial aid, any grant funding, anything
Work
like that.
study. Is
Work
that going to seriously impact your financial situation?
See
Because
if
it
you
may not
did
seem like a lot.
Yeah,
but
did you fill out your application for scholarships? Did you know that there was an application for scholarships? Did you know that there are scholarships that are outside of your college, right? Do that research, right? So even if you already have been taking out student loans, you might not have to moving forward if you know your resources and know what you can do about it.
Definitely.
But that's just kind of up to making that call like we talked about. Once you have done all of that, you need to stay committed to the process, right? Keep on keeping on. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, and keep doing it with just as much intensity as you started off doing it with.
Yes.
Don't lose hope in that middle space that we were talking about earlier, right? It's really easy to fall off the wagon right then and be like, well, let me just default to the minimum payment again because that's just the, you know, whatever.
Yep.
I've already been doing this for 5 years. Why do I want to do it for 5 more? You can't lose that intensity. And you need to figure out a way, whether that again be just having your support system or giving yourself a little treatsy or watching the numbers go down or whatever it may be. Right?
Putting up that, you know, some people do like a thermometer on their freaking kitchen cabinet and
that
they
makes
just
me
color
so happy.
it in.
They
And
just
I'm like,
they like color
visual.
up the or
I'm
they
a
erase
visual learner. That is the thing. And those sound a little cheesy, little quirky, but you got to do what's good for you.
Yeah, it's going to be
keep you
different for
motivated.
everyone.
Yep.
What works for me is different than what works for Alexis. Is different than what works for the random person, you know, down the hall, right? You have to really find something that works for you and stick with it and not be embarrassed about that thing that works for you, right? Go with it.
That's the thing. If doing without every single thing and you're like, I'm literally going to put every single dime that I have on this, if that works for you and you are not wounding yourself or somebody else or whatnot, then by all means, you are going to get that thing paid off.
Yeah.
However, don't feel like if somebody else is doing that and you ask them for advice and they're like, oh, I just put every dime I have on it. What do you mean? And you're like, well, I don't because I have kids or I have other things.
There's different
They're
situations.
not doing it better than you. They're not doing it in a, you know, they may be paying it off a little faster, but that's not realistic for you.
Yeah.
Assess where you're at.
To be fair, like that's kind of the strategy I almost took at the beginning, where it's like literally almost anything that wasn't necessary, I would be putting that money towards my student loans, which was working and not working all at the exact same time. Like my student loans were going down for sure, but I wasn't taking care of just random things that I needed to take care of, right?
Yep.
Like, you know, car issues. I was not maintaining my car.
No.
I wasn't taking my car to the shop regularly, getting my regular oil changes, doing all of this kind of stuff. And then, you know, you start getting into a little bit of a better situation. You take your car to the shop and you're like, oh, I need all of these things.
Yep.
You know, so you have to keep it reasonable and keep it in a way that really does make sense for you, not two people down the street, right? Yeah. That might have worked for them, and that's fantastic. And listen to their story and get inspired by their story and get inspired by the fact that they did it or that they're doing it and they're making progress. But that does not necessarily mean that you have to do the exact same thing as them.
Absolutely. And everybody has an opinion. Everybody has an opinion on how you should have done it, why you should have not done it, and they will tell you their opinion. But at the end of the day, you got to go home and sleep with it. So make sure that you're taking time to be like, this was me, this is why, this is where I'm at, and this is what I'm going to do. So I feel like we've touched on a lot of really good information here, and definitely you can reach out. I am ashamed to explain my experience and kind of what I did and what my strategy has been. So if anybody wants to reach out, I think you would be fine speaking about that as well. And so definitely reach out. I mean, we always have our contact information listed. If you're thinking about it and you're like, I really want to go about this the smartest way as possible. I'm not an expert. I'm not a financial guru, but I am somebody who is currently in student loan debt, and I think that's pretty legitimizing experience. So, you know, I can give you my opinion, give you my example. And like Brianna said, just sit down and be like, hey, this is what it looked like.
Yeah. This is what it looked like.
This is what it looked like.
And we gotta look at it.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
we are the FYE team. I'm Alexis Hutchinson, and this is Brianna Harris. And so we're so happy that you tuned in today. It was so fun to talk about this and just kind of compare and contrast experiences, give a lot of really good information, kind of double down on how we can help and ways that we see students needing this assistance and things.
Yeah.
So we hope you tune in next time, and definitely stay tuned for our budgeting episode. That is going to be fantastic. I'm super excited because you are the budgeting guru.
Yeah. And
you've
if
done a
you-
lot.
Just to mention, if you guys have questions about a specific thing, right, feel free to post them, right?
Oh, yeah.
So post them, ask some questions if you wanted us to talk a little bit about a specific topic or something like that. Now, don't necessarily expect an entire podcast episode about whatever it is that you want to talk about, but we might be able to mention a thing here or there, or we might have forgotten something. We're not
Definitely.
perfect people.
Oh,
We're
by
just
no
doing
means.
the best we can with the student loans we were given.
Yes, blessed with that money and also cursed with it.
Yes.
Bless it. But
So
that's
just
the thing.
let us know what you want to know. And if we know anything about it, we'll do our best to tell you.
Definitely. And I'm not opposed to going and looking at those comments and answering as many questions as I possibly can. So leave them in the comments section, send us an email, however you got to do to get that information down, because I would much rather share that and be open about that experience so other people are knowledgeable too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all, and we will see you next time.